Now I have my equation in standard form, and I want to factor this left-hand side completely, and I can see right away I have a greatest common factor of 2, so I want to pull that out. I'll have 2x squared minus 3x minus 108 equals 0. Now if I use a sum product chart, my sum needs to be a -3, my product needs to be a -108, and I'm looking for things fairly close together, so I thought about 12 times 9 because I know 12 times 9 is 108, and one of those two has to be negative so that I can get a negative product, and then I need to make sure I pick the right one so I'll have a negative sum. So let's just try 9 for starters, and if I do 12 plus -9 I get a +3, so it looks like I chose the wrong one, so it really should be a -12 times a +9. Those two will still multiply to a -108, but when I add them, the -12 plus 9, I will get a -3. And so there's my pair. And remember, if I have a 1 for the lead coefficient, I can use my shortcut, which I definitely want to do. And I can write my factor pairs as x minus 12. There's the minus 12 right there, so it's one of my factors. And the next factor is x plus 9, and it was a +9, so I put a +9 here. Set to 0. Now, since I have it set to 0, I can set each of these three factors to 0, so I have 2 equals 0. That's just garbage. And then I have x minus 12 equals 0, and x plus 9 equals 0. If I add 12 to both sides, I have x equals 12, and that's a valid answer. And on this one, I'll subtract 9 from both sides, and I have x equals -9. Now, if I'm talking about a distance, I can't have a negative distance and have it make sense. So I do have to ignore this solution also. It's extraneous for this problem because of the negative number. But my 12 is a valid answer. Come back to my original problem, find the length of the two legs. So I should have two answers, and one of them should tell me how long this leg is, and the other should tell me how long that leg is. So my first leg is going to be just what I came up with for x, or the 12 centimeters, and my second leg is going to be the 12 in for the x minus 3, so 12 minus 3, or 9 centimeters. There's my 2, and I can double check this by thinking of 9 squared plus 12 squared should equal 15 squared. And 9 squared is 81, 12 squared is 144, and 15 squared is 225. And a quick calculator check, and I do get 225 on both sides. So that is a Pythagorean triple for the leg, so I know that my answer is correct here. All right, two problems for you to try. And the first one is about the TV antenna. And I'll assume you're ready to see the work now. The TV antenna needs a guy wire, and that's just a wire that's going to support this antenna up here to keep it from falling over. So this is the guy wire here, and it'll have a stake holding it into the ground. So it needs a guy wire attached to the top of the antenna and anchored to the ground. And the distance between the base of the antenna and the anchor point, so that's this distance. And if I see that I'm working on a right triangle here, so I'm just going to draw a new right triangle. And here's the base of the antenna and the anchor point. We'll think about a stake being there. Is 17 feet less than the height of the antenna. So I know the height minus 17 should be the distance between the base of the antenna and the anchor point. And then that's also telling me I should use height for the height of the antenna. Then my next sentence tells me the guy wire is 8 feet longer than the height of the antenna. So however high the antenna is, add 8, and I'll have the length of the guy wire, or really what we're talking about on the picture is our hypotenuse. And then we want to find the height of the antenna, so we want to know what is h. Let's use the Pythagorean theorem to figure this out. So I have h squared plus h minus 17 quantity squared equals h plus 8 quantity squared. Now I need to expand this one, the h minus 17. So I'm going to come over to the side here where I have a little bit of extra space. And I have h minus 17, h minus 17. And I need to use FOIL, so I have h squared minus 17h minus 17h plus 17 squared, which is 289. When I combine my two like terms here, I have h squared minus 34h plus 289. And I'll put that in instead of this h minus 17 quantity squared. So I have h squared plus h squared minus 34h plus 289. Now on the right hand side I have h plus 8 quantity squared. So back over here in my scratch area I have h plus 8 times itself, and that gives me h squared plus 8h plus 8h plus 64. Combine my like terms, h squared plus 16h plus 64, and put that back into my equation instead of the h plus 8 quantity squared, and I have h squared plus 16h plus 64. I'm going to slide this back over, make sure we can see every bit of it. There. Now I want to combine all my like terms, and I want to get everything onto the same side. So I see that I've got two h squareds here, so I'm just going to write 2h squared minus 34h plus 289. And then I want to move this to the left, each one of these, so I'm going to do the opposite operation for each, minus h squared minus 16h minus 64. And all I have left on the right hand side now is a 0. On the left hand side this comes out to just an h squared, and I have 34 and 16, they're both negative, so I have negative 50h, and then I have 289 and 64, so I have to subtract the two of them and I get 225. Now I want to factor that, and I'm looking for a sum of negative 50 and a product of 225. So I think 15 goes into 225. It's 15 times 15. And when I add those two together, I get 30. And that is not what I needed. I need something bigger on one of these. So what if we try a 5 just to see what we get for that? So 225 divided by 5, and I get 45. Oh, I got lucky. So when I add these two together, I get 50. But I need a positive 25 for my product, a negative 50 for my sum, and I have a positive 225 for my product, but I have a positive 50. So I know I need to make both of them negative, and that'll give me a negative sum, but it's still going to stay a positive product. So there's my pair, negative 5 times negative 45, and I'm going to take a shortcut because I have an implied 1 here. Now it's visible, but was implied. The 1 here in front of the h, so I can take the shortcut, and I'll have h minus 5 times a quantity h minus 45 equals 0. Now I set each of these factors to 0, so I have h minus 5 equals 0. That comes to h equals 5. And over here we have h minus 45 equals 0, which comes to h equals 45. And we have two positive answers, and that's a little bit unusual, but we have to come back to our original problem and check them out. If I use a